New York is on sale right now in a way that we haven't seen in a really, really, really long time. And you'll start to see that in the numbers over the next couple months, that opportunistic buyers are coming to the city and actually buying now when they wouldn't have.
So in other words, you think there's an overreaction? So you think this is an overreaction of those who want to quit on the cities, quit on New York, all of that? They could be leading to big buys right now.
Buyers are now starting to come back, and I think there's great opportunity. And no, people in New York, especially in some of these cities, they freak out, right? They follow the herd and they get nervous, so they left. And they're all going to come back, and that's what we're prepared for.
That was Ryan Serhant a year ago today on this very show, talking about the boom to come in New York real estate. But it was anything but a boom time for real estate. A lot of people, the headlines were everyone's getting out. And then to add audacity to that, Ryan decides to start his own brokerage, goes out on his own in the middle of all of this. So a lot of people, including myself, frankly, thought he was crazy. But apparently he was not. He saw something. He's now running one of the most successful brokerages in the city and beyond. And he joins us right now. Ryan, good to see you again.
You know what? Listening to that audio quote that you just had, it just validates so much, because not only did you think I was a little crazy, but so many people said New York City was over. And look where we are now. Q3 contracts are up 104% year over year, and they're up 50% higher than where we were in 2019, which was well pre-COVID. Pricing is up incredibly high. Surge in demand for larger apartments, those 3-bed and 4-bedroom luxury homes that we talked about a year ago, are up 102 and 139% respectively just from 1 year ago. And 4 beds and penthouse demand are up 120%. I think right after we did that, I went and sold a penthouse that was asking $40 million. I sold it for 22.5, and it's probably worth something like 45 today.
Now, we're seeing the same thing going on in West Palm Beach, Florida, and some of the other high-end markets. But is the high-end indicative of what's happening everywhere else? Because you hear about the chill and the lower end, and all of a sudden people are holding back on purchases. How would you explain it? It's just a bifurcated market, or how would you look at it?
No, I think every market has, you have the innovator. Okay, so typically that is the person who has very, very intense market knowledge. Okay, those are the wealthy. They're buying first. We saw that in 2011, and we saw that in 2020. And then you have the imitator, and that's everybody else coming through. And that's exactly what we're seeing now. You know, last year we were doing a lot of large purchases at heavy discounts. We were doing a lot in Palm Beach. I sold the most expensive home in the history of Florida for just under $140 million on North Country Road in January, close in February.
I remember that was you. I didn't know that was you. All right.
Neil, it's always me. Okay. And there are now lots of people coming into New York and Florida, and they're kind of following that innovator. They're following their bosses. They understand that if they're out of sight, out of mind, there's only so much they can do through Zoom and through Teams. And so the entire market is moving in a very, very healthy way. This isn't an overheated market due to free access to credit. Let's say this is a smart market. People are making smart decisions. They just haven't bought homes because they wanted them since 2007. We are selling homes now to people who want them and need them. And that's a healthy marketplace. And so it's exciting, and it's great to hear the way we were kind of predicting it a year ago, because we weren't really sure.
I could see the Florida thing. I mean, a lot of the people who are going there are transferring their big brokerage firms. A big one recently just announced its intentions to head to Miami. So you would think that would hurt New York, that if they're leaving from these high-tax states or cities, that it would hurt New York, but it is not. Why is that?
Because California has done everything they can to convince people to leave. And so we have a significant amount of high-end purchasers coming from California to New York, in part because the flight for them to Florida is now so much faster because you can jump on an airplane at 6 a.m. in New York City. You can have a breakfast first meeting at 9 a.m., have a lunch with a buddy, or hit some golf balls or do some kite surfing, and then get home by dinner time. You can't do that when you live on the West Coast. And so with so much migration from New York to Florida, the open space now in New York is being absorbed very quickly from people who otherwise ordinarily might not have come to New York City. But we see that every cycle. It's always, when people move out, other people move in. And nobody left New York at the end of the day. More people moved to New York in the last year and a half than actually left. So you have to be very careful with what you read. And you got to make sure that you're getting all the facts and making your own educated decision, because people can be very spooked by headlines, and then all of a sudden that becomes fact when really it's not. New York and a lot of the luxury markets in the United States are in very, very good, healthy places. And the only thing that really hurts them can be local government, and that's what we're seeing.
Your base of buyers are the same base that right now is being targeted for big, big tax hikes. And I'm wondering if that concerns you.
It does concern me, but I also really look at history. I think we were probably having the same conversations in 1910 before income tax became a thing. 1911, 1912 are probably some very stressful years, but guess what? We made it. We figured it out. We will always find a way. And it's convincing buyers to do some things. I mean, I have a lot of people who do move to Florida who say, you know what? New York City is going to pay for my new beach house. And that's what they're doing by declaring residency there. And the schools are great. Offices are being built left and right. And New York really needs to understand that, right? If their tax base is going to move, someone's got to pay the bills.
Yeah, that's very true. I'm talking on the national level. If President Biden gets even a fraction of this $3.5 trillion package through. Finally, it's about attitude, and I'd be remiss. I mean, you had a very good book, Sell It Like Serhant. It's all about being upbeat and positive, as you were a year ago today when you were talking with me about things. But Andy Cohen, I was hopping on your site, the Bravo Watch host, What Happens Live. He said of you, Ryan is not only charming and hilarious, he could sell milk to a cow. And I'm wondering if that's your approach, that you are so optimistic and aggressive about this, that I wonder if your clients are just saying, gee, why am I not buying this unit?
I forgot that he said that about me. Yeah,
Well, it's on
one of
your
the
site,
big reasons that we
so
started.
You might want to just polish that one up, but go ahead.
No, I like it. I will totally sell milk to a cow. Listen, we started our firm, Serhant, last fall because we really believe in the residential real estate market, not just in New York City, but globally. And I want our brand to be synonymous with luxury real estate around the world for the rest of time. And I think that we have a very, very bespoke approach to how we work with people, whether they're looking for a house for $500,000 or whether they're buying a house for $140 million. We treat our clients the exact same. But I know that every single day that I wake up, I can look out the window and see sunshine, or I can look out the window and see rain and clouds. And I choose sunshine every day, no matter how bad it is, because look what we've come through from 9/11 to Hurricane Sandy to 2008 to a global pandemic that shut down industry left and right. We're coming out of it every time stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. And I think that we are very, very resilient people. We're smarter every day than we've ever been. We have access to information every day in our fingertips more than we ever have. And that gives me a lot of hope and optimism. And we should live in great homes because of it. And so I champion forward movement and momentum and progress every day. And I think the clients that choose to work with us, they're equally excited about life. And I've never had anyone buy a $20 million home while crying. So, there's also that.
There is also that. Well, you seem to be coming along. Good luck coming out of your shell. I'm glad you listened to me a year ago because you were kind of Debbie Downer then. But continued success, Ryan. Very good seeing you.
Thanks, Neil.